Hi everyone, Clickety Clacktano here, the internet's busiest, sweatiest music nerd, really, and it's time for a review of this new Kim Petras album, Detour. New record from pop singer and songwriter Miss Kim Petras. Kim has been making waves in music for a while now, really since about the turn of the 2020s. Though thus far, in my eyes, she's really only been able to attain flashes of mainstream success. As far as the modern pop landscape is concerned, I've found a lot of her longer projects to be kind of generic and scant. But I will say I do find her slut pop series quite charming and hilarious. How can you hate songs about rim jobs and whale? All that being said, though, a lack of originality and also some raunchy lyrical content are far from the biggest roadblocks in Kim's career. After all, recently she was at odds with her record label Republic, claiming on social media that this album here has been done and ready for 6 months, but was still yet to receive a release date for it. Something that is pretty believable, frankly, given that some of the big singles from this project date back to 2025, which is when I'm sure she would have wished to drop this. And not only that, but Kim's long-standing collaborative relationship with polarizing producer Dr. Luke has also been a point of criticism, not just among skeptics of her career, but fans too. And even that, with this new record over here, seems to have faltered, or at least the message has gotten through, as she seems to be moving on creatively with this LP, collaborating predominantly with the songwriting production duo known as Frost Children, with many more production credits on this record from the likes of Porches, Margot XS, as well as the legendary Sophie. And honestly, this is a pretty exciting prospect. For a long time, I've always thought Kim has been held back at least a little bit by some of her beats and instrumentals running a bit a dime a dozen. Maybe something more adventurous or alternative could make her songs more intriguing. Even if Frost Children's last full-length project, Sister, in my eyes kind of left a bit of something to be desired. But yeah, I really do think they could all bring out the best in each other here. And it's also clear Kim herself is trying to frame this album as a change of pace in her catalog, a new chapter. I mean, after all, it is a detour, and the opening lyrics on this record read, "This is the beginning of the end. Everything before is just pretend." So taking things into a different direction, doing a reset, that is obviously Kim's intention here. But whether or not she achieves that is another question. I mean, off the bat, is there a case to be made that this is Kim's best project so far? I think so. But from the start of this thing, I do think in a way there is a pretty clear lack of character and vision. I mean, the sonics of the title track, for example, are playing very much to these kind of like brat-inspired electropop and hyperpop trends that are still all the rage right now. And while it's not a bad song for sure, I wouldn't blame a casual listener for, hearing this track in passing and thinking it might actually be a Charlie XCX song. But following this, the track DTLA is even worse, because I feel like this song has no identity whatsoever and doesn't really know what it wants to do, as it's constantly shifting in mood and sound, going from sad electropop ballad to 2000s club banger, also pure heroin era lord for some reason. Not to mention how the synthesizers change at moments on this song, like around the 80-second mark, leaves Kim's auto-tune vocals feeling almost out of tune, or at the very least out of place. I don't think this record really, gets its stride going until I Like Your Look, which brings more electropop vibes, but with kind of a sweet, flirty, chill, approachable presentation. It's a cohesive tune with an anthemic chorus, with a message that brings a play on relationship dynamics and fashion, likening being with someone to wearing them, and how Kim believes that this person that she's singing about looks better on her than someone else. The following few tracks, I will say there's certainly something to: Check It and Polo, but the former I think could have been developed a bit more in terms of layers and length. And the latter does really kind of feel like nothing more than some passable Sophie worship, like with the kind of production from the Product era. But when it comes to the track Brutalist, frankly, I'm floored. It's one of my favorite songs she's ever done. Really snappy synth pop whose whole lyrical metaphor is really kind of diving into Kim's experience with gender dysphoria. And while I have talked about Kim's music before, I haven't really had the chance to really address that element of her identity, which is clearly something that's important to her on a personal level, but it's not something she makes super central to a lot of her songwriting, or at least the way she wants to present herself as a pop star. But the writing on this song brings in elements of brutalist architecture, mentioning Kim's father's background as an architect, bringing up this particular building that she liked a lot and would often see when riding on the way to psychiatry, which obviously would be where a lot of these feelings of gender identity would be getting addressed. But she also mentions having her hair cut during the psychiatry sessions, and also brings up the building being bombed and bulldozed and torn down, getting knifed. Clearly there is a parallel going on here in terms of having this unique standout thing being destroyed because it doesn't fit the norm. Again, not only is this track incredibly catchy, but it is passionately sung, and I think one of Kim's best songs ever. But then as we move on to the second half of the record, it is a little bit of a mixed bag. The song Need for Speed is a quality piece of infectious Y2K era pop, but then Jeep is an attempt at an acoustic ballad that I think could still use some work. The auto-tune doesn't really truly fit the guitars. I'm not entirely sold on the eloping process being described in the songwriting, not really sold on how urgent and dire this relationship is. And there also is a pretty weak bridge on the track too, where Kim, I think, struggles to fill in these gaps, not just melodically, but topically too, though I do love a good random Slipknot reference. 101 or One of One is an electro banger where Kim is really kind of like celebrating her uniqueness with not only some killer production, but an awesome industrial Trent Reznor type twist at the finish. And while Basketball, I do think, has some endearing, silly elements to it, likening a relationship she's in to being in a game of basketball, all the parallels being drawn to, you know, three-pointers and the like are really kind of obvious and could have been more interesting with the references for sure. Bitch Ball Out is a song that is certainly heavy and visceral, but it's a track I could see people kind of going either way on, depending on whether or not you truly want to hear a 2012 era piece of trap pop, because that's kind of what it is. And while I do think Kim does this sound justice, and this track is in a vacuum just as fun as anything that was dropped during that time period in a similar vein, that doesn't stop it from sounding dated. The landing here does get stuck though. I think she ekes out another quality ballad with Korea. Korea, 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 Korea. Like, what a stupidly simple but addictive and effective hook. And then the closing track, Freak It, I am like well acclimated to at this point, with it being a single from the record. Really kind of ends the album on a high note. It is, of course, like a freaky jam with some glamorous house vibes and some kind of stuttery Daft Punk type edits to boot that I like a lot. But yeah, overall, I did like Detour, and I think Kim is really moving in the right direction with this record. I see a lot of love and excitement over this album that I very much think is well deserved. While the album on the whole did not blow me away, I think Kim is getting closer to making the kind of music that I had always hoped she would make or thought she could make. But I do think there does need to be more effort put into not just operating in the various lanes of hyperpop adjacent music, electropop that she clearly fits in and feels comfortable in, but finding ways to define herself within that if this is in fact like the direction she's going to continue to move in. Feeling a light 7 on this album. Transition, have you given this album a listen? Did you love it? Did you hate it? What would you rate it? You're the best, you're the best. What should I review next? Hit the like if you like. Please subscribe and please don't cry. Hit the bell as well. Over here next to my head is another video that you can check out. Hit that up, or a link to subscribe to the channel. Anthony Fantano, Kim Petras, forever.